Welcome to Shop Talk Live, episode number 282. Today it is Anissa, Barry, me, talking about all sorts of stuff, talking about the structural integrity of dovetails, keeping your tools rust-free in storage, how I use a 3D printer as a woodworking tool, and we answer one listener's question about possibly turning a joiner into a shaper? I don't know. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that if you're needing a refresher on mortise and tenon techniques, you might want to head on over to the link down in the doobly-doo or in the show notes and check out Mike's video where he demonstrates his two favorite techniques for cutting mortises. His simple yet effective drill and chop technique utilizing the drill press, and for those with the budget, a hollow chisel mortiser. And he makes the argument for both of them being the perfect way of making a mortise. So head on over, watch that video, and we'll get started on this episode. Thanks. Eagle-eyed viewers on YouTube get to witness Barry and I's standoff of who is going to empty the top of this dust collector.
I was wondering why it was still full.
Wait.
Mike even asked me, he's like, is Ben saving this for something? I said, yeah, it's Ben. B-E-N. Strano. I made sure Mike got that real clear.
Wait, which one? The one behind me?
Yeah. It is chock full.
Well, it turns out when
I see it.
when you don't, these dust collectors are great, and they will go until they kill themselves. Yeah. It seems like. And for some reason, I can't say Barry because you put this one together and I put that one together. When true. Individually we assembled the dust collectors, we didn't put the little alert thing on to tell you when the bucket's full.
Oh, that was an active choice on my part. I didn't want to deal with it. I was like, I made it this far.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Me too.
I didn't want to. I was like, no, because it all comes together and it looks great. And you wheel it into the corner. It's like, and now assemble the alert. You go, nope.
You're like,
I'm
no,
done.
I'm done.
It's
Yeah, mentally.
It's an after
Yeah.
everything
so,
else is done.
Yeah. And I did the same thing. And and the problem is they just go and go and go until all of a sudden there's no suction. And it turns out the entire filter is clogged and filled. And it's just, and this is nothing to do with the dust collector. This is entirely user error.
So the thing that tells you, what do you call it? We just said the word.
The alert
The
thing.
alert thing can still be installed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but now the dust collectors are absolutely jammed packed full of sawdust. So I finally took the top off the big wall mount one and emptied it out and was like, oh, okay, yeah. This is why it wasn't sucking. And then Barry texted me, a month ago?
Yeah.
It was before the holidays. And he's like, I'm not getting any suction here. I was like, well, it's probably locked up in the filter. He goes, nope.
I was jamming my hand up in there. I don't know how I missed it because.
Well, you had to take, that happened with me once with that one. And I thought I got everything out, but it must have been the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I come in the next day and I pull the filter off and it's just jammed.
Yeah.
And I sent Barry a picture. I was like, there's your problem. And he's like, wow, I didn't think to look there. And so I just left it on the workbench. I was like, this isn't my, I'm not dumping this.
Not it.
And like, I keep coming in and it's still sitting there. I'm like, I'm not going to do
No,
this.
I need to know. I will dump it.
And it is still that one.
It is still jam-packed full of
I'm
sawdust.
curious if it's going to keep the shape of the.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not like full.
Be a perfect
It's not
negative.
like kind of. It is screw you full. You know, it is.
Yeah, it is packed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when you do the bowl of rice and you.
Yeah.
But do you remember what you did to my dust collector?
I called Grizzly and got it repaired.
That's one perspective.
No, Barry just has
what?
a deep history of jamming up dust collectors and,
Yeah, that's
and
what I'm
not
saying.
looking for the jam.
Well, I'm going to trace it back to my first day at the fine woodworking shop 5.5 years ago. The filter was just totally, it would overflow with. I think we were taking like overspill from one bag and putting it into another. I was like, I'm sorry, this is your first experience. We called it 191 at the 191 shop. And it's just coughing and it's in my nose.
It was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful.
So
your cup overfloweth is a good thing, but your dust collector overfloweth.
That's true. It did not feel bountiful. You know, it was not,
It's very
no horn of plenty.
right?
Yeah.
You know what you should do is you should save that for your last day.
You wouldn't let me make it to my last day. You would like shank me if I kept.
I don't know. At this point, I'd almost applaud I'd almost applaud it because your first day we had a dust collector mishap,
That's true.
and
I
on
do
the
like
last
symmetry.
day,
Yeah.
we will end Barry's reign with,
Bookends.
Yeah, I like
with
this.
clean dust collectors.
I don't know if I'll make it that far, but I like it. I like
Okay.
the narrative.
I'm getting stuck on the rain part. Raining what?
What are you talking about? I'm over here like a
said-
puppet master. Mike thinks he's in control. No. She has strings on that guy.
Wait, so this is this first pod of the new year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And potentially our last podcast together.
I know.
I don't know was going to come up. Yeah. Yeah. Yay, bookends. Yay, symmetry. Thanks.
I was like going right there. You didn't see that coming, Barry?
No. I thought it would wait until later in the podcast. Like we would build to it.
Because you might start crying.
What's this mite stuff? It's the sawdust in the air.
Yeah,
Those are tears.
I know.
it's and also Bongo, Anissa's
yeah,
dog
guest
is here. So
appearance.
yeah, if somebody starts crying, it's dog allergies.
It's a dog. Yeah, right. Oh man.
Yeah. So, are you going to share what's going on?
So February 10th is my last day on the job. On the 11th, my brother and I are driving what's left of my stuff down to Florida where he lives. I'm going to put it in a storage. And then on the 26th, I fly to Vietnam and I will live there for the foreseeable future. There's no real plan. It's not, I'm not giving myself like a year to figure it out. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to go over there, teach English, hopefully do some freelance or find woodworking. Yeah, I'm nervous and excited.
It's cool.
It is. It's big. It's cool. It's been on my mind for a while. So now that it's actually happening, it's somewhat surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody's asked about you leaving, it's been like, this has been coming. You know, Barry, yeah. You feel the need to be somewhere else, and that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So
Whatever, Barry.
You all can come visit. You should. We'll go get egg coffee and then go get
egg
pho.
coffee. That sounds awful.
So
What is
instead
an
of
egg coffee?
I think it's an espresso-based drink. It's definitely coffee-based. But instead of cream, they whip in an egg yolk. And I think it has to do with when the economy was pretty poor and sourcing milk was hard, but they had eggs aplenty. So you just take egg yolk and whip it in. Apparently it's very rich.
So growing up, my Aunt Sophie, my dad's sister, used to make us these milkshakes that were coffee, raw egg, sugar, and milk all in the blender. It sounds super gross, and I couldn't bring myself to do it right now, but we used to have them all the time. They were so good.
Is that an egg cream?
I don't know.
That was like a thing my dad used to talk about, like egg cream is back on Coney Island. I'm like, all right, Dad.
I don't know. I don't think. I
I
think
feel like egg
is
creams didn't have
seltzer
actual
and-
eggs.
I think they might not.
Oh, and they might have been fizzy.
This is a woodworking podcast. What the heck?
But it's bad. You might get another podcast in before you go. Maybe.
Probably
Maybe
not.
not. Probably not.
I'm out of here in
I'm-
30
Oh,
days.
that's right.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm pretty done with them.
With podcasts or Barry.
I've been itching to leave for a while. Everyone else has been itching for you to leave even longer.
Shoot. Are you
Ben at
looking up
lunch
an
like
egg
3,
cream?
4.
Yeah. It's Fox's You Bet chocolate flavor syrup. Cold whole milk or half and half, ice cold club soda or seltzer water.
Yeah, I thought it had seltzer.
Yeah, what a stupid name.
There must be some egg background to it. No?
So, but yeah, egg coffee. Come drink it with me. Listeners, look me up. I'll buy you some noodles.
You have. How long is the flight?
The one I booked, I think it's 28 hours total travel time.
28.
I know. It's the worst part is the 15 hours from Atlanta to South Korea to Incheon Airport. But then there's another 5 to Ho Chi Minh City. And that 5 just feels like a kick in the pants. You thought you were done. No.
So what are you bringing?
No tools. No woodworking tools.
You're just bringing like a bag of clothes.
Yeah, a bag of clothes. Sorry, I don't know why I said that with my tongue in my teeth. A bag of clothes, some books like to help me teach, like teacher resources, and that's it.
Snacks?
Oh yeah, so I have celiac. So I am bringing like a bag of gluten-free snacks because celiac kind of makes you a toddler going to church, you know? How like parents would like bring like a bag of like Fruit Loops for their kids so they'd shut up during mass.
That's a toddler going anywhere.
Fair, all right.
Yeah.
So I think celiac fits my personality. I go more like a toddler? Yeah, deal. More snacks? Deal.
All right, so this will bring us to our first question. Because I thought, oh, well, Barry can talk about what he's going to do with his tools. From Jeff. I believe you addressed a question like this on the podcast before, but I can't recall the episode, so I apologize for an already answered question. And we have, but there's always new takes. I'll be moving in the coming weeks from a rented house with a garage to an apartment, which would require long-term storage in a unit. I don't own any heavy equipment, mainly hand tools, hand power tools, an old Craftsman bandsaw, and DeWalt job saw. Living in San Diego, the climate isn't much of an issue, but what should I take into consideration preparing and storing the tools and equipment?
Am I starting?
Well, you're the one who's like knee deep in this now.
And luckily I've worked on 2 articles that address this directly. And so I think the hand tools and hand power tools, all I'm doing is putting them in toolboxes. I might throw in desiccant, but the storage unit, my mom has a little corner in her unit. It's climate controlled. So I don't think that'll be an issue. And he's in San Diego, which makes it like a negative issue. You know, it's kind of perfect.
I don't know though, because apparently at night it gets, according to Patrick Edwards, the humidity swing is pretty drastic between when the winds come in at night off the ocean.
Okay.
And but I think it equals out to over time a stable.
So maybe you'd still get the condensation on.
It's possible. Yeah.
So I've debated using desiccant packets in the toolboxes. Woodcraft just released one and I haven't reviewed it. I don't know how good it is, but it's a desiccant packet. It's rechargeable. And so this is the cool part. So it's a little zip bag with a blue window on it and you throw it wherever, in your toolbox. And I think the window turns purple or red or something to indicate it is full of moisture. You nuke it in the microwave for a minute or something, and then it's dry again, throw it back in your toolbox. I just ran that in tools and materials. I was like, I want to buy this because my tools are getting stored in Florida, which is just swamp humid all year round. So I've considered a desiccant. An idea I got from Chris Schwarz. He did an article, 20 years with a tool chest, where he talks about tool chests like moisture inhibiting, resisting properties. And he said desiccants work well if you're somewhere really humid like Florida. Get goldenrod. I'm not sure what it is, but I think he said gun owners use it.
Oh, I thought you meant like the flower. Yeah.
There's a flower?
Ooh, yeah, goldenrod. Yeah.
Oh.
You've seen it on the highways.
Okay. All right.
Golden.
Yeah.
Rodish.
Mike's wife uses it for dyeing.
Oh, yeah.
And like this is a woodworking podcast. But early days of COVID when it was like nobody going anywhere.
Yeah.
She was looking for goldenrod. I was like, oh, we have a bunch in our yard. And we had like the most awkward handoff of like a bucket of flowers ever.
I had no idea. I think I have that name right, goldenrod. But it's a very intense desiccant.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Roland Johnson did Busting Rust or How to Bust Rust. I don't know. We had a cool headline. I'm forgetting it now. It ran 2 or 3 years ago.
Rustbusters.
Rustbusters.
I don't remember. Yeah, I know. We need a theme song. And so this comes in. So he talks about stuff like plane socks, or like socks that you put your plane in, not like ordinary socks. I edited that part out. But he also mentioned, so I think about this with the bandsaw and the job site saw. What would he do? He would cover things with plastic if it was like long-term to prevent moisture from condensation from settling on the tops. But another nifty idea, he just cut a piece of plywood to size. So size of your bandsaw table, if you need to, cut a kerf in it. So you can just slide that plywood onto the top and that will keep moisture away. If I had machines, that's absolutely what I'd use because it fits to the tool. You know, it's dedicated. It's not going to take up any extra space and it keeps moisture off. I think that was part of Raleigh's routine when he like shuts down for the winter. He covers his tools with some kind of wooden top. So I don't have any power tools, but that's absolutely what I would do.
When I was redoing my shop, I stored I sold my table saw when I moved, which was stupid. Because I thought, I'd rather sell this and buy a new one than move it.
Yeah.
Not realizing like that you're moving the table saw when someone buys it from you. It is equally annoying, you know? And we had so much stuff to store anyways. It's not like, the table saw was the tipping point, But my bandsaw table got rusty because I didn't do anything to it. I might have just put a coat of wax on it in preparation. So when I got my table saw, I wasn't ready for it yet. The old Unisaw from Mike, it just like got shoved in the corner of my garage or my shop. I did the thing where you spray the top down with WD-40 and then put wax paper over it. And the solvent in the WD-40 kind of melts the wax and it like sticks perfectly to the top.
I like that.
Like it's a sticker, and then you just peel it off, spray more WD-40 on it, and wipe it down when you're ready. That really worked well. I didn't have any rust issues with the cast iron on that. And recently I realized that my lathe was taking up too much room in my shop, and we have lathes here, and I wanted that room. So I disassembled the lathe and I put it in the garage section. I keep forgetting Bongo's here. What the hell was that? And I took all of my turning tools, which I don't want to rust.
Yeah.
And I got one of those Husky, Home Depot Husky. I think things? But it's like an airtight bin.
Oh.
Like there's an actual rubber seal around the top and it clips on. Yeah. And I've been using one for my 3D printer. Oh, it's coming up later. For my filament, to keep moisture from degrading filament. And I just keep desiccant beads in that. And with the filament, I even have a hydrometer in there just so that I could see if I need to change out the desiccant or And it's been in there. I open it up, I get filament in, or I take filament out, put more in. That keeps the humidity level of that sealed bin at like 11%. Like in my head, nothing could rust in that. So one of those sealed bins, which they're not cheap. I think they're like $30 to $40 a piece. So it's not like if you've got a lot of hand tools, you could easily spend $200 on these bins. But one of those sealed bins with desiccant packs, I think you're golden.
That's I need to. One thing that I'm going to do, I forgot to mention, is I'm going to very carefully dust off all the tools because I'm not going to have anybody to monitor them. Like they're going to my mom's storage unit. I'm not going to go like ask her to, hey, open up this, Poplar Japanese toolbox. So I'm going to dust off everything very carefully because I don't want sawdust on there because that holds moisture. And if that hangs out on my hand planes, I'm afraid it will.
Well, and it holds moisture on
That's what I mean.
One specific little,
So, I'm going to make sure things are clean, put on a layer of wax or oil. But I like that wax paper idea. That's
a cool idea.
Yeah. It's not it's not as messy as like Cosmoline or whatever. I've heard of people like getting that gunk that manufacturers put. Oh,
no, thank you.
What about you? Any?
I'm constantly in a state. I don't have heat in my shop yet. So it's kind of the question every year going into winter, what I'm going to do. And it's the same thing every year. I end up not doing anything, but I plug in, like I think for the amount, I either keep the heat off and I'm not really going to go in there, but that's not realistic because I end up needing to go in there for something for the house. So I try and clean and put a coat of oil, camellia oil on like the hand tools and stuff. Sorry.
It's okay.
Before winter actually sets in. That would be the ideal. And then I just give up and I plug in 2 of those oil heaters or one. Last year I used one. This year I borrowed one from somebody else and that was that your phone?
I just saw you too.
Ben just scooted his phone across the bench onto the floor. I'm not
trying to be like the bartender sliding a drink down. Like, what you've ever done doesn't work. It's like it always.
There's nobody down there to catch it. I was why? Why did you do that?
I was getting interference from the phone. So I thought, let me just get my phone as far away from me as possible. And I thought like, I'll just slide it down to the end of the bench. And it just went,
it took off.
It was like you're having a dream about playing air hockey or something.
Oh, Bongo's so excited too.
I know, we just got him all wound up.
Something good's happening.
Anyway,
they're talking about me.
So that made me wonder, like, are you storing your planes with the blades? Like, what do you do? Are you leaving the planes with the blades in, and are you taking them out, wrapping them? What are you doing with that? That I was wondering about you specifically when I was thinking about this question.
I was going to leave them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably put them in a sock or an old T-shirt or something. I'm going to hit up Goodwill for like old bedding and T-shirts just for packing material. And I figured,
I think I take the blades out. That's a really good point.
Why? So they don't rust to the frog? Or to the bed? Like,
I think more contact.
Fair.
Between, there's more of like all of the parts together. If something gets in between, that's where you start to see rust, is like when you buy an old tool, when you take it apart, that's when you find the rust, is where everything is. So I think I would take all the blades out and then put them in, like wrap them in like a roll.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. You mentioned old tools. That's where they rust. Like, yeah, of course. My brain went to when I get sweaty at the gym and chafe. All right, I will take the blades apart. That's really good. No, not.
See how I did that? I was just after you taking the blades out.
I know that was
I just
very
figured
smooth.
like I'll be like Columbo and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Yeah. Oh, by the way, that's
very Socratic. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a good car. What did he drive? A Corvair?
No, I thought it was a little Carmen Ghia or something, wasn't it?
Definitely not Carmen Ghia.
How old are you two?
Older than you, Barry. Which is your point here. You're just trying to emphasize that.
A Peugeot 403 convertible.
This
is a woodworking podcast.
It's a good car, regardless.
I'm going to sample that.
The title of this episode.
This is a woodworking podcast.
The old man yelling at cloud like Abe Simpson.
All right. Let's see. Should we answer another question? How long are we going? Yeah. Let's answer another question. Hi, Ben. I don't want to know what you think.
I don't like that they always address you. I feel very
they know who
slighted.
the heck is reading the questions.
It's fair.
Yeah, but
I still want a little
bit.
love.
Come on. Wait. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Ben, I really like that shirt you're wearing.
I wear like the same shirt, so yeah. I'm planning out a project involving case dovetails. As is common, from Ray, sorry. Normally I format these, but I was trying to make cameras work in the hour leading up. I would normally do this, and fighting with cameras. As is common, I put the tails on the show face. It occurred to me that they're were also structural questions. The dovetail joint is asymmetrical, so it must be stronger on one face. But which one? I hastily recall, without bothering to do any research, that failures of a mortise and tenon always happen on the tenon side. Let's say we were concerned about pushing on the side of the case. Which way would we orientate the dovetail to best resist the push? So like if it's a box you're rolling around the floor, you're pushing on the side. So got that. Does through versus half lap dovetails matter? Big fan and all that of me, not y'all.
I like a send off. I like this question. Some parts confused me, and so I'm curious what you guys think. What's the show face on a case? Like, where are the tails oriented?
And this is what makes it an interesting thought of like, I don't know if I've ever thought about the aesthetics of where the dovetails go. I think I've always thought about the main concern of like, where are the forces being pushed? Somebody else needs to throw their phone off the table. Or just put it on the bandsaw or something.
Made it all the way across the shop.
Thank you. Sorry.
What's the deal with the? Never mind.
Well, when they're struggling to get signal.
Oh, does it interfere?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it interferes with audio equipment. Yeah, yeah. There's a very specific noise. I'm highly in tune with. Sorry. So it's something to think about when something's hanging on the wall, right? Mm-hmm. If you've got a case mounted on the wall and gravity and the weight of the tool case are always pulling it down, there is a way in which the dovetails could fail and gravity could undo the case, right? There's a direction in which dovetails go together, so therefore it's the direction that they come apart. But I've never thought about it with like a lateral push or anything like that, or a racking motion.
I talked to Steve Latta about this because he was talking about his case construction or something, and he was teaching in a class versus Mike's. And I might misquote Steve. I really hope I'm not. But traditional case construction for like a chest of drawers would put the tails on the top and the bottom.
Okay.
So opposite of what Pekovic does. I kind of think Mike is like a touch point, like people understand like, oh, what Pekovic does. So I'm going to maybe use him to contrast. The tails are on the top and bottom, and it's to prevent the sides from cupping or bowing, which would screw with your drawers. Mess with your drawers.
Oh.
So that's it. But Mike may do it for aesthetic reasons, but I think one of the reasons he puts the tails on the side is, well, gravity, because he has a lot of wall cabinets. But he does the through tenons, and to assemble those, you have to have the tails on the side because everything is coming like left to right, and then you put left to right, and that's how you pinch the top and bottom and the tenons. Whereas with like traditional cases, they would do sometimes tenons, but I think typically dovetail dividers. And so you just make the case, then cut your dovetail housings and pop in those dividers. So you don't have, so the order of operations isn't an issue. Okay. And another thing Steve told me why he likes to put the tails on the top and the bottom is he can rabbit the tails, which is nice because he can then register the top and bottom when transferring the tails to the pin board. But also it makes that, when you rabbit it, it makes that thinner there, which lets you use thinner molding. So when you cover the dovetails with molding, because you're not Pekovic, you're not some weirdo arts and crafts show off. I'm glad Mike's not here.
He'd fire you.
He would fire me. February 9th you're leaving? You get to use thinner, more delicate molding instead of being restricted to like 7/8 or 3/4 wide stuff.
Yeah, I guess like the real heart of it is like if you're letting your joinery show or not.
Yeah.
Because I think of a lot of case pieces where a dovetail case, half blind dovetails
with a false top and bottom.
With a false top, you want you're covering the top.
Right.
So therefore you want the tailboard on top.
Correct.
If you're wrapping it with a molding, you want the tailboard on top in a half blind. So that just complicates everything. There's no one answer.
Is there ever just one answer?
Yeah.
When?
To that question. Prove me wrong. You have to answer every question.
There's never just
Or
one
ask every
answer.
question. I don't know.
But yeah, I was thinking about the half blind with the false top thing also. And when we were in the office talking about it, I have one of Chris Becksford's, his little 10-drawer cabinet. What?
Your cubicle is starting to turn into a little Chris Becksford showroom.
I know. I'm very jealous, honestly.
And there's one of Mike's pieces in there. You broke my train of thought. It like comes and it goes so fast that like even the slightest interruption is like dooms me. So he has that little 10-drawer cabinet and it's half blind dovetailed. And I remember like I've told the story about how I did the prop and I couldn't imagine covering the half blinds and I did it on the wrong side. But so I'm just gonna read. So you can't always do it so that the strength is in like the most appropriate place, but as a general rule of thumb, and I can't give credit to where I found this right now because I left it in the office, but it's talking about the direction of strength. And which board gets the pins and which board gets the tails. And it made it really easy for me to wrap my head around when I'm looking at the dovetails and I could see like, oh, this comes in this way. So if all the pressure is being put in that direction, you have to turn it so that, just you can look and see if I'm placing that board on there like that, it's going to come out easily that way too. Does that make sense the way I'm describing it? So this paragraph that I found, the direction of strength is toward the pins. To illustrate, dovetails are normally used to join four boards at right angles to form a box. Yes, we're all on the same page there. If this joint were on a drawer, for example, the pins would be cut on the drawer front where the mechanical strength of the joint holds the drawer together as it's pulled open. So that's a good visual to kind of keep that in your head for the strength. If the joint were on a wall-hung cabinet, the pins would be cut on the bottom, which is the direction of the weight of the contents. And that's also like just kind of a way that I could put that in my head and visualize that and think about this question. But then you go back to the half blind thing and that is the opposite of this.
It depends, because there's scenarios where the half blind is on the side and half blind on the top.
Yeah.
So
the scenario that you mentioned with the false top.
When are half blinds on the side?
If you were doing like a spice chest or something and you were covering and you were wrapping a molding around it, you could put the half blinds on the side. No, I'm sorry. If you were doing half blinds on the side, so they're visible from the top.
The lap is on the side. The pin board is the side.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
So Matt Kenny's chimney cupboard.
Yeah.
He had a false top that went over the dovetails.
I misunderstood. Yeah. Wait, so you're saying the lap board can be the side or the top?
Yeah, depending on the design.
When would it be the top?
On a lot, if you're wrapping it with a molding on the side to cover up the dovetails, you'd put the lapped board on the top.
Okay.
I'm only confident in saying this because Anissa does not look confused. Anissa's like right there with me, so I'm like, okay, I'm making sense.
All right, fair.
So you guys are using the lap board as the half blind?
As
like
the
pin board.
It's the pin board.
The pin board.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think
that's easier to
pin board.
I'm
versus
sorry.
tailboard.
Like I really have to still visualize the body of a dove when I think about tailboard versus
and shaking its little tail like this is me.
Huh. I never heard that.
Yeah, I have to,
good, yeah.
like, it's the bird. You're looking at the top of the bird, and the tail is going off, and the body of the bird is the board, and the tail is the tail, and that's how you tell the two apart.
And never the twain shall
I
meet.
also have an L tattooed on my hand.
I remember the day I learned that. It blew my mind.
The dovetail thing?
The L thing, but yeah.
You learned it from BVD.
Oh, wait, this?
No,
I don't
your
know
left hand makes an L. That's how you know which is your left hand.
Oh.
It was like first grade when I taught my students that.
I don't know if I knew that.
That you're left. This is a woodworking podcast. Can you two just get back on task?
Circle back. The whole pin board on the sides to prevent cupping.
Yeah.
And how Mike doesn't do that. I think Mike, I don't mean to make it seem like Mike doesn't care.
You think Mike's a hack?
I think we all know it, but we're afraid to say it because Mike sometimes pays for lunch. No, so I
think Mike knows it doesn't really matter.
Right, and I agree. And I think he gets around it because he's using like quarter sawn and riff sawn stuff, and he wedges those tenons that run the full width of the case side. Like when he does, and so he's locking that sucker down.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so if he's got through tenons,
yeah,
because I've done this, I've made this mistake, and I made some speakers, and I made them Pekovici, and I put the tail and the pin board on the wrong side, and you couldn't put it together at the same time.
Yeah.
So like that comes back to that construction order of construction of the case dictates sometimes where the pin board and the tail board go. And Mike's, I just wrote an e-letter where I called him like the most systematic woodworker I know. And this plays into it. Mike, like if you swap where his pin board and tail board are, it changes his entire way he cuts dovetails, because his layout with the tape and with this and everything he does has to change, like back to like the original laying out of the joinery. I swear to God.
What's dawning on me is that even podcasts without Mike end up being about Mike. What's it like working with?
This is Barry's last podcast. What do you think of Mike's thing?
Yeah, right. Oh my, yeah, that's funny.
This is your last podcast. What's your favorite thing about having worked here? One thing.
Oh, you guys.
I mean, other than me. Who do you like
I said
better,
plural.
Ben or me?
Bongo. Bongo shares food with me. Neither of you do.
That's not true.
You share Bongo's food with me.
Well,
no, the team. When people talk about like, what's the best part, and it's like it's the lamest answer in the world, but it's the truth.
No, it's legit.
Yeah.
Like no ands, ifs, or buts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
like thinking and working woodworking all day is great.
Yeah.
But like, I think we really do have, till Barry ruined it, like a really great team, you know, and that made it. Of course, working from home really diminished.
Messed that up.
Yeah, it really diminished that.
That was the nail in the coffin for me. I don't know why this is getting all essential, but yeah, because you're not just talking woodworking, you're talking woodworking with friends, and so you get that like in and out of conversation, like, oh, you're talking about dovetails. Oh, you're talking about the Foo Fighters. Oh, you're talking about pin boards. Oh, you're talking about, you know, why corn tortillas are better than flour. Like it's.
But then you add the publishing thing into that. There have been a couple times that we've been on the phone or in person or whatever. And so there's the woodworking thing and the publishing thing and the working with like various authors or manufacturers or whatever. Like it's this tiny little context that not many people get, you know, like, so.
Yeah, it's cool.
For whatever that's worth. It's kind of cool where you've said a couple times, like, there is nobody else on the planet who would get what I was talking about other than somebody at Fine Woodworking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this weird little pocket of existence.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So great that you're leaving.
So I will cry before the podcast is over. Is that what you're like? What you mean towards?
Shoot.
Let's take a break. Hey, Shop Talk Live listeners. Take a deeper dive into woodworking topics you love when you join the Fine Woodworking Unlimited community. From in-depth video workshops, projects and plans, tips and techniques, you'll find everything you need to know to master your craft. Try Unlimited now and enjoy a 14-day free trial. Find out more at finewoodworking.com/members.
What? A mortise and tenon always fails at the tenon? What was that? I'm trying to figure this out. I'm I don't know. Is it because the tenon board's smaller, or you're matching the tenon to the mortise, and so the mortise is kind of a fixed cutter?
I don't know about that because. Or by the way, we're rolling.
Hey.
Because we're getting in a good conversation. Yeah. So I feel like I've seen. We have joint failure test articles, so we could reference that, and I'll link to it in the show notes.
Oh,
but you're taking wood away from the mortise, so if a mortise is on the end of a board, a corner of a frame and panel board, that's got to be the weaker aspect.
We'd have to ask David Johnson about that. I feel like he talked about joint failure. We were looking at a blog or an article about where furniture fails because he's always getting the old stuff and having to repair it. I feel as though it might happen a lot with the tenon, that they break off.
So that's what it's like, a wood thing. It's not a joint thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because when a chair breaks, you're right. Because he's done two blogs for us of when broken chairs.
Right.
And it's the tenon.
It's the tenon. I feel like, and even, when a chair breaks, it's always where the rail goes into the leg or a spindle comes out, and it's always the tenon. Though I haven't done many chair repairs, but.
I guess I don't know if I would blame that being the fault of the joint, because
maybe it's a poorly made joint. Maybe it's a tenon that doesn't actually quite fit well into the mortise, or
because the shoulder is the fulcrum, right, for a mortise and tenon.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's where it wants to bend, but it's not that. Seems radically different to me than where should I put my pins. You know what I mean? Where should I put my shoulder? There's only one spot.
Yeah, we'll have to have David on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. David, you're listening?
Sidecar Furniture.
Book it. Yeah. Sidecar Furniture on Instagram. He's the best. I really like David.
I never got to shoot with him. You two did, right?
Yeah, you suck.
I just got back from there. Well, not just, but.
It's awful. You have to go to L.A.
No.
Which it turns out is awesome. I love L.A. I spent 30 years of my life avoiding L.A.
Same. It is not what I expected it to be.
It's so great.
How did you avoid L.A.?
Nashville.
Yeah, I guess you am. I love L.A.
All right. Let's see. Let's cover a question that is specifically for me, since it's Barry's last show. Ben, not Barry.
Or anybody else.
In the past, you know what? I avoid questions that go straight to me.
No, this one you have to answer.
I like this one.
I have to answer. All right. In the past, you've mentioned on the show that you have a 3D printer and occasionally use it in your woodshed for things. Recently, I did my first self-designed print to make some runners for my table saw and bandsaw tracks. I finally gotten the detention styled in, but I was wondering if you had any tips or tricks for making or designing runners. Still new to this, so any feedback would be appreciated. You've also said you've made some zero clearance bandsaw inserts, if I recall. What other projects have you made, and what have you found the printer useful for in your woodworking? So that's questions from Zachary. First off, I am, probably by the time this show airs, I guess, starting a new blog or whatever, a collection on the website of, word people, and podcast listeners. Yeah. What should we call it? I really wanted to call
Ben's blog.
No, I want to call it digital woodworking, because we're getting a CNC, we're, 3D printing, like the digital geekery of woodworking.
We're getting a CNC?
Don't tell anyone. Let's keep it between all of us. Yeah, and it's going to go right over there. I just got to build a little platform for it. And these nice people are sending it for the shop. So it's a great opportunity for us to start covering that kind of digital aspect of woodworking. Unfortunately, another publication calls their stuff digital woodworking, which is the best name ever for it. So I can't call it digital woodworking.
I kind of want something kitschy like Tomorrowland or something, like the future in the 50s.
Yeah, let's piss off Disney.
Yes. Come at me, Bob Iger or Mike Iger, whoever the Eisner.
So I'm going to...
Everybody be thinking about that. Yeah. What can this section be called? But one of the things I want to cover on this section of...
The wide world of woodworking. Thanks for laughing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to get that one out.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
And might be it.
Yeah.
The gauntlet's been thrown. Everybody beat that. But I'm going to be writing about how the 3D printer to me is a tool in my woodshop. It is at times a separate hobby, right? But the majority of what I use it for is making jigs and little doodads for woodworking. So, yeah. So there's the call to action. What do we call this blog? And then also I will be covering this more in depth on the website, and I'll link to it. But so Zachary, I've made a mess of stuff in the woodshop for the woodshop. But if you are doing runners, like table saw runners, I've done this. I don't think this is a woodworking blog. I don't think that PLA, which is the filament that most people start off with, and if you're using PLA, Zachary, and if you just are getting into it, I bet you are, because it's the easiest to print. I don't think that that's going to hold up very well.
For the runners, you mean? For
the runners. I made one. That cell phone's giving me audio interference, Anissa.
I'm sorry. I was...
You're taking a picture of your dog.
I'm so sorry.
What else do you do with a cell phone? But I don't think it's going to hold up to the friction. I've made one, but it is a runner that I use. I use it for like this one very specific thing, cutting one joint on an ukulele. Oh. And so it'll probably run over my table saw like 10 times a year at most, If it was for a crosscut sled, I think I would do, and I have not printed in PETG yet, Zachary, but I think I'm leaning towards getting some PETG for my more functional prints. It's just a little bit more sturdy of a material apparently, and still fairly easy to print. But that's one thing I would look at, Zachary.
So I had a question. Sorry, you don't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He mentions tips and tricks for making or designing. Is there ever a benefit to designing it yourself? Like, do you go to Thingiverse first to see if they have like the saw stop 1 horsepower cabinet saw runners, or you're like, I should do this myself? Like, where is that line? Because for me, Thingiverse is one of the big benefits of 3D printing. Like, never mind being able to print anything, but like, oh, somebody else figured it out too? Like, I can just click the file.
I look on Thingiverse.
Okay.
And if there is one that fits my needs exactly, I'll download it and print it. But that's one great thing about 3D printing is it's like downloading it and printing it requires 2 to 5, 10 minutes of your actual attention.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, your robot is making the thing, So, so you just do it. And if it doesn't work, you go, oh, great, I spent 45 cents on filament.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
So let's say you upload your dust collection port for your bandsaw.
Like whatever
Which
your
I got off
14-inch
of
grizzly.
Thingiverse. I got off of Thingiverse, yeah.
So I'm going to make up a scenario. You have a 14-inch grizzly. Let's say I have like the newer 14-inch grizzly and the dust port's slightly different. Am I able to take your file and manipulate it? Like, Ben's version is too big.
Depends.
Okay.
If it's a really complicated shape, which the bandsaw dust shroud is, because that one is a shroud. It's a thing that curves and tapers and
okay.
It's
not just a disc.
It's a very complicated form. You can very easily in the slicer program, so you download the file and then the slicer is what translates it to your individual printer. You can very easily upscale and downscale things. So one of the first things that I printed was a battery holder for my Milwaukee 12-volt batteries because I had extra ones. I thought, if I could just stick them on the wall, that'd be great, And I printed one and it didn't fit. So I just scaled it up like to 102% or whatever and then printed again and it fit. I was like, okay, great. You can do that easily. If it is like I have adapters that, you can stick on a dust port designed for like a shop vac hose and then stick the Festool hose directly in. And so it's just basically a circle or a cylinder hollowed out with one shoulder or whatever and a smaller hole. If you were somewhat competent in a 3D modeling program like Fusion 360, you could download that, import it as a bitmap. We're getting really dorky, right? But import it as a bitmap, make it a solid, then that program can then change dimensions of simple faces. But the more complicated the faces is, the more it's like if you change that one, all of a sudden like the whole thing tumbles down, nothing works. Recently we're really going to get dorky. Recently I was printing a TIE fighter.
I was going to ask.
I was
waiting for the opening because that thing was so cool.
Super cool.
Yeah. So like when I talk about like my hobby of 3D printing, it's printing Star Wars things for my son. But I was printing a TIE fighter. I paid for the model off of Etsy. And there was things that I wanted to change just a little bit to make it easier for our printer to print. And it was really like I had to import it in and I spent hours manipulating it in Fusion. And that was like really far down the road of 3D modeling and printing. But you can manipulate things easily. But for me, it's easier to say, I needed to do this thing, open up Fusion. Or you could do SketchUp, and there's there's plugins that you can export STL files out of SketchUp with. But it's easier to just go, I need a circle to do this thing with a hole this big in it. Draw it up, export it. I can usually model a simple thing in 4 minutes and print it. Again, my active time at the printer and with the slicer program and everything is 10 minutes. It's negligible. And then if it takes 6 hours to print, it doesn't matter. My robot's doing it while I'm doing other things.
Are digital calipers a crucial tool? Like I need this big of an opening, like 0.693.
It's a really good point. And yes. Oh, well, I use vernier calipers, which are...
Okay. So you need something super fine.
You need something. Yes. And you'll also learn, like if I measure this thing to be 25.7 millimeters, I'm going to model it with a couple of tenths of a millimeter clearance because my printer has a tendency of, learn, you eventually learn like my printer needs, 3/10 of give or take here, but I really think that 3D printing is a fantastic tool for templates and for little teeny tiny jigs that would be really impossible to make otherwise as accurately as you can make them. And I also think that it is, if you're the type of woodworker who, like me, sits there and says, oh, I wish I can afford a Shaper Origin. Oh, I wish I can afford a CNC. And you can't, like me. a lot of times I can get past that thing by printing out a template and making my dumb router.
Yeah.
That's what we need to start calling them dumb routers. But making my dumb router do the thing, you know?
I remember when smartphones came out and everyone over 50 was like, I still have my dumb phone. Like, all right. I love this. Yeah, you've been championing 3D printers for years. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I've been doing it since early days of COVID. So 3 years now or whatever, almost. So 2.5 years I've probably been messing with it. And now I don't think it's a rabbit hole that everyone worries it can be. It doesn't have to be. My 3D printer you can pick up for $200.
Really?
A roll of filament, which will last you at the rate which I print a lot of things, can last me months, is $20. You know, it is not this, it's like bang for your buck tool in the wood shop, easily one of my biggest returns on investment. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, when I get on Etsy sometimes and like, maybe Etsy feeds them to me. I forget how I find them. It's like these little adapters and jigs and tools, and they're just 3D printed.
Yeah.
And they're just everywhere. So yeah, just tons and tons of use. You know, it's incredible.
And, I mean, if I want a tenon, this specific size, I can easily just print up a template that size and double stick tape it to the thing and route it.
Yeah.
You know,
man, I want, because the number of times I've had a template like jog at the router table, and now I have this little like oversized piece at the end.
Well, then you print one up a little bit bigger or whatever.
Right.
You know, that same mentality with the shaper where you could be like, oh, I need to just make it a little bit bigger or something like that. If you're smart with your templates and allow yourself reference surfaces and all of that. But the end of my ukulele necks, you know, I have a tenon this big or whatever. So I have a template that goes on my little L thing that's attached to my workbench, and that screws on the top of it. And then, but I need the end of that template to be, or the end of the tenon to be angled and the shoulder to be angled. So I print a little ramp at 1.7 degrees to hold the neck at that angle. And then I can just route that perfectly sized tenon on the end of the neck at that given angle.
Yeah, that's great.
I can't think of a better way of doing that without like having a very, very elaborate jig.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add about 3D printers except for the TIE Fighter was super cool. And Roz's look on his face was like, check out what I got.
Yeah.
My dad made this.
Yeah. Now that was with a resin printer, which is a whole different deal, a whole different kind of, that's further down the rabbit hole. So yeah. All right. One more question.
Sure.
This one's from Dane. And Dane, you are, I love the way you're thinking. Like this, you are like a what box kind of thinker. They're not outside the box. There is no box for Dane. This is great. Maybe a little braver than most.
I was going to say he's going to have a hard time holding on to any box without fingers.
Nah, I think Dane's all right. All right. Let's see. I'm just listening to episode 270 on shapers. And the comments on similarity to a jointer made me think. For a home shop, would it be possible to outfit a jointer with shaper cutters and a power feeder? And a power feeder,
yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
Yep. For
Safety
lightweight
first.
shaper duties. Thanks, Dane.
I'd have to go back and listen to episode 270, but I think no.
I'm wondering if
Steve Latta said he threw out his jointer since getting a shaper.
No.
No, I'm kidding.
What was 270 was Steve Latta talking
Yeah.
about jointer or shaper accidents. It was, I think
Dark.
I said at the beginning of the episode, like there's some stuff in here. So
I appreciate the ingenuity. Like
Yeah.
this is a conversation I want to have at a bar.
yeah.
but like with the notice, no one's going to attempt it afterward.
Yeah.
You know? Would
So-
you 3D print the new cutter head?
No, you 3D print the prosthetic.
You're right. Yeah.
Oy.
So first off, lightweight shaper duties. That sounds like a router table to me.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
already
touche.
a thing. Lightweight
Yeah.
shaper is
Yeah.
a router table. So end of conversation.
Yeah.
But just the function is completely different. I mean, that jointer cutter head is, and then the shaper cutter head needs to. Am I missing something radical? Like
This is great for
just
audio.
Well, the jointer cutter head is going toward. It's rotating toward the work that's coming across the top of it.
And shaper's rotating toward the work that's coming across the side of it.
Yeah, but the shaper cutter head is just spinning in one place,
Yeah.
and you're moving the wood or the piece into that cutter head and out of it. They're not really, you have multiple blades on the jointer. It's just
Here's my thing. It's like setting up a joiner is a pain.
Oh yeah. You
Right?
tune it. Yeah.
So it isn't like a table saw where you can
That's
swap the
true.
blade out and like you got a new thing, you know? They're like when I have a joiner set up, don't look at it. Like I don't even think you should be running wood over it. It's set up, okay? Leave it alone. But like, no, I'm not changing out the cutter because first off, the
What if
cutter
it's a Tersa head? Dane, you and I are now. We're buddies. What if it's a Tersa head and you got Tersa cutters?
No.
But that's a great
am I
point.
missing
Lightweight shaper
something
duties
here?
is a router, like a router table. That is an excellent point.
Maybe.
Yeah. Now, we should say though that they make table saw blades
Right.
with like it's like a big metal. It looks like a big thick metal dado stack without cutters, and you can install cutters. And my father had one for his radial arm saw, and you install cutters.
For his radial arm saw?
Yeah. Oh, dude, the things my dad built with only a radial arm saw.
Mine too.
He built like a whole house of furniture.
Mine too.
When I see those table saw heads, I'm like, oh, that's for ripping. I get.
Well, no, but yeah, you can turn the head of a radial arm saw. And rip
Oh,
on it.
thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But you
It's
don't
not-
want
no.
to rip on the radial arm.
No,
saw.
but when I see, but like, you know, a with the grain operation.
But that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those cutter heads now, I have seen those in an author's shop, and he swears by them.
I think
The table saw blade.
they're super cool.
Cutters?
Do we know who I'm talking about?
Kelly Dutton.
Bexford.
Just stop.
Wait, these things are great. Wait, they don't look hairy to me at all.
The table saw cutter heads?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, they do to you?
Yeah.
Why?
It's all right. I know the physics of it, and I know and yeah, I get it. I'm not doing it. I don't know.
It's sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
They're
You're
not
leaving
terribly
anyway.
thick. So for me,
You
it's
go
like
first.
cutting in my mind. So I almost got one for the doors I made because I wanted profiles in like what you do with a scratch stock in ye old times, down the middle of 4-inch wide stock. But like I got the idea from Follinsby, who uses a scratch stock, and I wasn't going to do that.
Got
Like,
the
I don't-
idea for a table saw shaper cutter head
Well, no,
from Follinsby?
No, where to position like the groove, this profile in the middle of the board and the style. And then I remembered the table saw heads, and they seemed legit. Like Kelly Dutton is a big fan. They're just kind of thick table saw blades, but it reminded me of just running a groove with a dado stack, right? Like it would be the same amount of force. I guess you could even.
I guess so. And Bexford, he loves it.
I have never seen him pull this out. Ever.
This is, and because I saw it in his shop, I was like, dude, do you use that? He's like, yes. And he had like the best reason for it ever. And this was like the big seller for me on the idea was, I think his is a single cutter head. So it's one insert that's spinning around. Okay. And the reason being is if he has to duplicate a molding, what you do is, and this is brilliant, and we should do a video with him explaining this because I'm not going to be able to do it justice. I'm going to try though. Never stopped me before. What you do is, so like that cutter head is held at, let's say 30 degrees or whatever. You take that molding, the piece of existing molding you have, and you cut that piece at 30 degrees. And then you can trace that new face onto a blank cutter head.
Oh, and just grind it to
and grind it out.
Yeah.
And make a exact negative of that molding.
And when you say molding, you don't mean like chair rail or wainscot. You mean just like for a piece of furniture?
Yeah. I'd say like, let's think about the shaker pieces, the shaker originals that Bexer is fixing or reproducing, because he fixes, he restores as well. So he wants that new piece to match the old piece perfectly.
Right.
And he can guarantee that with this table saw cutter head. Yeah, that's like, smart. Okay, yeah, you win. You're smarter than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean, but
still, I don't think this will work.
Well, the joiner thing is I love where's I want to see Dane's other ideas.
Except, so if the end of the barrel that the blades go on for the jointer, the cutters go on that cylinder, if that were exposed at the end and there was a spot for a bit there, you could have a
Tersa head idea.
No, a combo machine, which is jointer shaper, because at the end of that cylinder.
So if the table didn't extend all the way past the cutter head,
the end of it.
Yeah.
You could put a bit in the cutter head and have some kind of safety mechanism.
We're not saying do this, people.
Well, no, but that's the only way you're going to turn a jointer into a light shaper, right? You need the one and it's spinning and then you present the work to it at... No, just no. The answer is no.
I love how each of us has come back to like, terrible idea. But what if...
No, it does come back to, I do like the way he's thinking.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. All right. Well, Barry.
I think Dane is one of those people who asks if God can microwave a burrito so hot not even God can eat it.
Wait, what?
I forget where I got that from. It's from like The Simpsons or some.
Of course.
Yeah. Dazed and Confused. I don't remember, but it's
Dazed and Confused. Oh.
But it's specifically not a weight so heavy guy can pick up a burrito so microwave so hot. Like that's the metaphor is very specific. Yeah. Was that what you wanted out of me?
No, I was gonna say it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks. Love you guys.
Oh, just
back
stop.
at you.
That's enough, both of you.
Toxic masculinity over here.
No. It sucks to have you go, but we're excited for you. And I'll say all of this in more detail and probably cry when we actually say goodbye. But for the listeners, it's Barry has been the listeners don't know how good of a writer Barry might be.
Oh yeah.
How good of an editor Barry is, how good of a photographer Barry is. Like all of the things that y'all do in the background, like Barry has, I remember Mike saying it takes 2 years to know if an editor is going to work out. And he knew immediately that Barry was going to work out. So like that's what Barry brings to the table. And anything you do incredibly well and we're excited for you. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Really, I don't even like Barry. I'm just counting the days until he's gone. He's kind of funny, right?
I don't know. For
Funny
me,
looking.
I'm just like, what am I going to do every morning? Because we log on and we're like, it's like half an hour of BS on Slack.
Yeah.
But all right.
Before we clock in, folks, this is not on company time. Yeah.
It was woodworking related, I guess. All right. Do you have any parting words?
There was a moment that happened when I came up, and it kind of colored the whole experience, and I didn't realize it. When I moved to Connecticut for the job, 3 people I met were like, why did you move to Connecticut? And it was totally like just draining, discouraging. And then I met a guy, I was 30 when I moved up. I met a guy in his mid to late 40s. And he's like, oh, you're new to the area? Why'd you move up? A job. What job? A magazine. What magazine? Fine Woodworking. Like, nobody knows it. And his eyes got enormous. And he said, you are my father's hero. And those, meeting geeks, woodworking geeks, or people who know woodworking geeks, and they'll bring over their dad or son or whatever because I'm wearing a Fine Woodworking shirt. That's been marvelous. So I'll do the coworker goodbye later. Yeah. But as far as the readers and the listeners, you guys have been fantastic. And thanks for letting me in. It's been flattering. I don't know if I was looking right at the camera. If
you
I wasn't,
were. That was brave.
Might have been Uncanny Valley if I'm looking right off. But yeah, thank you.
Well, that does it for this episode of Shop Talk Live. Thank you so much to everyone who listened, and thank you so much to everyone who sends in questions. We need more questions. Bring them on. shoptalk@taunton.com. If you're watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up button. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Thanks for listening.